Jack Ellis.
Oh, thanks.
Anyhow, this is obviously Jack Ellis, the master of creation.
Yeah.
All right. And the idea is Jack built the original diorama that you see in front of us here. And there are so many subtle things about this kit that I thought, what could be better than to ask Mr. Ellis, the great Mr. Ellis,
Yeah.
right, Jack?
Right, the great.
I got it right?
As long as it's not the late great.
To join us today. If you've seen the opening video, you have an idea of what the kit is about. We're going to discuss specifically, even more, and this is maybe too much information, I don't know, but we certainly want to make sure that those of you interested in the kit will have some insight as to what you're getting into.
Yep. The specifics of the kit.
And
Yeah.
Jack has been into it this deep since I met Jack.
Yeah, thank you.
When he first showed up on our doorstep one day here at the shop, I never thought we'd end up being such good friends, and I had no idea what a prolific builder he was. So Jack, I'm going to let you do this because you know what you're doing. In this case, not so much me. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, Jack Ellis.
We're going to start by discussing each of the sides of the building, the elevator building first. And I thought we'd go over some quick steps on how to start and put this thing together. This kit's pretty well intricate. There are some small pieces to put together and some intricate pieces. Basically, we're going to start this kit by putting together all the stucco pieces. They go together fairly well. We use a stucco material. On the outside, there's a couple ones out there that you can use. We'll go into that probably more on the kit instructions. But we just put the stucco throughout the bottom pieces and the back wall were all stucco. The elevators, the fire escapes, there's something you want to wait and put on almost last because they're pretty fragile and you don't want to be handling them all the whole time. The elevators, if you build the elevators, the openings for the elevators come in 3 pieces. It's easy to build them as a section and then put them onto the kit. That way you're not handling too much, and it's easy to get inside and work inside where it's not on the building. The rest of it is pretty well on these. These are straightforward. We did some distressing on the walls. The windows go in, glazing of the windows. It's very straightforward as you do a regular kit. These 2 front walls are very similar, so you can treat them very much the same. There's lots of windows. There's lots of glazing. You'll have fun with that. The front door is 3 pieces. You want to make sure that these 2 side pieces go in first and then put the middle in. It just makes it so much easier. You're going to do a little bit of beveling on the edges to make it fit right in nicely. I use squadron putty on my corners and then sanded them down. That gives them nice smooth finish. You're not going to see your joints when you do your stucco.
Jack, before you stop on this, a couple things. When you use the squadron putty, did you find that the stucco maybe stuck better to the task board or to the putty, or did you have to prime them, or did it make any difference at all with that?
With the stucco that we used, I had a little problem with it sticking to the squadron putty. I think it's because the material in the squadron putty like outgasses and doesn't let it stick too well. So we primed it first right over the squadron putty, and then we put the stucco on. Before we put the stucco on, we have a bunch of these exposed bricks you'll see around. We just painted them I think we used a brick red or a barn red, and then we stuccoed around them, and a little bit of weathering powders on the top, a light gray, and that's all we did to them. We didn't do much more than that, and that's all you need to do. I didn't even put mortar in the lines. You want to leave the lines dark, so that makes it much easier.
All right, another question. We have incredible elevator shafts here. Now you have the doors, and those are pretty obvious, but there are two vertical columns, one on either side of the elevator installation. Now, these things are, these areas are stuccoed. Exactly how did you go about adding the, the structure, the structural members, vertical members, to the wall without getting stucco all over them for the model?
If you look on the pieces of the elevator shaft themselves, they'll show you the lines where these members, these metal members go that the elevator rides on. So what we did is I used blue painter's tape, and I cut them to fit on the scribe lines on the wall, and then we taped those down, then we stuccoed right over it, and then pulled the tape off. That gave us a nice flat surface to put our metal members right against and glue them down, so they glue down tight, and you get the right tolerances between them. The elevator actually slides it up and down on these little members, so it needs to be at the right width.
And as far as the concrete goes, as the stucco goes, typically I know you can get this product at Michael's. We'll fill more in on that on the instructions. But it comes in white. You're not using white. What color would you suggest on this?
And this one that we use the white, but it comes in many different colors, and sometimes hard to find this stuff. So if I find it even in a brown color, I'll buy it, and then I can take my colors and paint right over it. It paints very nicely. This happens to be just apple barrel craft paint over the top of it. I think it's khaki. It goes right on really nice, and it seals up the outside of the stucco.
Did you do anything else to the finished stucco finish to give it more character?
A little bit of weathering powders across the bottom, some pan pal pastels we use with a light brushing, and some streaks and things like that, but nothing major. Just paint it on and use some of the chalks to weather it up.
Now, when you built the cardstock, the task board in this case, is tabbed into, if I'm not mistaken, the task board base, which serves to represent the sidewalks. Did you have any issues with that?
No, they seem to go together straightforward. It goes in good. The only thing we did here is when we braced these stucco pieces, I didn't want the stucco pieces and these together at the time I painted this. So by running my bracing about a ½ an inch from the top of the stucco, it allowed me to put bracing on the wood part of the building, and then the wood part bracing would stick below and made in with the stucco. That gave it some structure between the two, and it would allow me to paint my stucco and paint my building separately, and then put them together.
And you used 1/16 inch square corner posts on this specific building?
On this building, that's all I use is 16th, and we braced it a lot. I did a lot of bracing. If you want to add some more bracing, that's good too, but I think there's significant enough bracing with it. I add a little bit more, always, because these kits are going to travel. I also built the wood sections, which is this section here is an L shape. There's an L shape over here and an L shape over here. I built them structures separately and then placed them onto the stucco part of the kit. You'll see more when you see the directions for it, so you'll see how that goes. What you want to do is just make them so they interlock with the bracing.
Now you know that there has been a shift since the prototype was built. As things always work out, these kits are often developed during construction as well as any other time. Why don't you go over exactly the changes that the guys will see when they go to build this thing?
There's some minor changes. The front windows will be a little shorter. We didn't like the length of the window, so we're going to shorten those up. There'll be a metal water tank instead of a wooden water tank.
What about the cornice works itself?
The other thing is we have come with a little more ornate cornice, which will be made out of resin, and you'll cut them to length and miter them at the corner. So the cornice at the top will be a little bit different. It'll be a little bigger with a little more ornate, and that'll just drop right in. You'll be able to cut them on a 45 and put them right in.
So unlike these had to be built up stick by stick on the prototype, correct?
Yeah, these are built up stick by stick. The new ones are a little bit more ornate. I think you'll like them a little better too.